So there are three main school of thoughts on criminology, and these school of thoughts are the schools that explain the reason as to why people commit crime. So these three main school of thoughts are the pre-scientific school of thought, the classical school of thought, and the positivist school of thought. So the pre-scientific school of thought, or demonology, is the school of thought that came up before the Age of Enlightenment, or before the late 17th century, when the Age of Enlightenment came up, or when the classical school of thought came up. So this is the school that came up before the classical school of thought, or before the Age of Enlightenment. So according to this school of thought, this is the school that believes in spiritual beliefs, and they explain that there are two forces that make people commit crime. We have the force of evil and the good force, and they say that the evil force came from Satan and the good force came from God. So the evil forces are the ones that made people to do crime or criminal behavior, and the good forces from God are the ones that made people to do good things or good deeds. So according to this pre-scientific school, it's a school that believes in the traditional and non-scientific practices. So they believe in traditional and non-scientific practices that make people to commit crime, and they also believe that restoration was one way of undoing the wrongs that were done, or restoring wrongful deeds. So another school of thought on criminology, this school of thought, the pre-scientific school of thought, faced some criticisms during the late 17th century by some scholars like Charles Darwin during the Age of Enlightenment. So the second school of thought on criminology is the classical school of thought on criminology, and this is a school that emerged during the Age of Enlightenment, or during the late 17th century. So according to this school of thought on criminology, this is the school that came up as a reaction to the pre-scientific school of thought on criminology, and explained that people commit crime not because of forces of evil, forces of good, but because on their own decision, or because of the choices that they make, or the decisions that they make. So people themselves made the decision after analyzing the pros and the cons that made them to do criminal behavior or crime. So this is the school that believes in the free will principle, and it is the free will that made people to choose on the wrongs that they did. So they believe in the free will principle, and according to this free will principle came after people participating in the decisions that they made. So after people participating in the decision, it made them to own those decisions. So this classical school of thought on criminology just came up to bring some sanity in the explanation as to why people committed crime, and it brought some order because the reasons were being noted down or were being written. So another school of thought on criminology is the positivist school of thought on criminology that came up during the 18th century as a reaction against the classical school of thought on criminology. And this positivist school of thought on criminology denies that notion that people committed crime because of their own decision or their own free will, and they react against the free will principle. So this positivist school of thought on criminology says that people committed crime because of some external factors, or some external things that are beyond the control of people themselves. And these are the biological factors, the psychological factors, and the social factors. So the biological factors, those factors that are biological in nature, and they are going to be explained by some various scholars that we are going to look at in the coming episodes. Some psychological factors are those factors that are psychological in nature, and the biological factors are those factors that are explained by some scholars like Cesare Beccaria, to include those factors that are biological, that are genetic in nature, that are transplanted from the parent to the offspring. So there are those that are genetic in nature. So we're going to look at those factors, and the end you are going to understand. So get in touch, subscribe, and have a nice day. We're gonna do this.